I'm Casey Viera. In case you haven't heard about it by now, a Speedy Claxton-led Hofstra Pride team is going to the NCAA tournament. We show love to Silver and Black when they do big things, especially when former Silver and Black products, the NBA champions, they're now wearing blue and gold like they are out there in Hempstead, New York.
And I'm Devin Brown. Congratulations to Hofstra for that wonderful feat. Whereas UTSA, time to rebuild. We got to get ready for next year right now.
This is Locked On Spurs Squad Show, the twice-a-week show where Spurs talk gets real. No filters, no fluff, just raw takes, sharp opinions, and straight-up passion for the game. The way only Locked On Podcast Network knows how. Let's drop some dimes and squad up. The Spurs Squad Show starts now.
And indeed it does on a Wednesday night right here on the Spurs Squad Show on Locked On Spurs. You would know it by now, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcast network in the world. He's NBA champion Devin Brown. I'm Casey Viera. Thanks for hanging out with us. I know a little bit of a later start tonight on a Wednesday evening, but you guys doing what you do and showing out and wanted to talk your Silver and Black, and understandably so, because there's a lot to talk about. Winning a whole lot of basketball, 16 of their last 17. We'll hit on yesterday's victory over the Boston Celtics and think the bigger picture, what's ahead, talk about what's really gone right on this front, obviously Wemby, and give De'Aaron Fox his flowers a little bit over this stretch. Plus, we'll look on the other aspect of it. No team is perfect right now, as we know, the Spurs included, though it seems pretty much like it. What we think has got to be fixed as these games get infinitely more important as things roll on in the next couple of weeks. And we'll get out of here by talking about what we want to see with what's left of the two-game homestand ahead, the last two of the six-game homestand ahead. But we start tonight with the fact that Victor Wembanyama and his push for the Most Valuable Player award really is gaining some steam. After a month of February that saw him being named the Western Conference's top player when he put up 22 and 11 and 3.5 blocks, 50% from the field. The month of March, not that bad neither. 28, 11, 4 blocks, over 50% from the field, over 40% from three. Again, an undefeated February, 5-1 in the month of March. And we're at the point, at least my opinion, that we are having a realistic conversation of two things. One is that he's getting really close, if not to having that title already. He's in the conversation. Two, he's separating himself from the pack. And now it's looking very, very realistic, in my opinion at least, that the most valuable player is going to be residing in San Antonio, Texas, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely, Casey. We're not going to take anything away from Wemby. Wemby is, playing, and it started before the All-Star break, but when he got around all those other guys, he seemed to be himself. He seemed to carry himself the same way. And since the All-Star break, he came back to San Antonio, and he's playing at a different level, and the guys are following. But when you talk about some of the things that Wemby's doing, Wemby obviously is shooting the three well. He's attacking the rim. He's blocking shots. He's just being the leader that he is at such a young age, and you love to see it. But I want everybody to remember what he's chasing and what Wemby thinks about every day. David Robinson, Tim Duncan, guys like that have wore the uniform, that are in his ear. He takes that very serious. And since day one, he's been wanting the Spurs to play like this. So now here we are a few years later, and the Spurs are playing at the top of their game right now. And yes, Casey, a lot and pretty much everything that you see starts with number one.
For me, this is coming from a guy who has done a complete 180 on his candidacy. Because I was of the belief, and still am of the belief, that if you're missing double-digit games in a regular season, I know the rule is 17 you're allowed to miss, but if you're missing more than 10 games in a year and your team is not the number one seed, the number two seed in the conference, I have a hard time giving you the MVP award.
Right.
But since that time, in the past 6 weeks to 2 months of what it's become, during this winning stretch of the 16 and the 17 and then the undefeated February, I'm really running out of an argument against it right now.
Right.
And I think it's down to him and Shea for what, ironically enough, is probably going to be coming down to the number 1 seed and potentially the right to represent the Western Conference in the NBA Finals. So it's only fitting that the MVP is probably going to come down to that. We know injury assumed. You think for the better, of course, with both sides. Victor and SGA both do not have a lot of real estate to work with when it comes to the 65-game rule. Victor, only those 4 games, like Devin said. SGA, he only has 6 games remaining. So if you're a betting man and you have your sights set on Cade Cunningham potentially sneaking in there, which is deserved in my opinion, not to the extent of Shea and not to the extent of Victor, but you're a betting man and you're thinking, oh, I might have a chance to get some bucks out of this. And that's what you might want to explore because Cade's still got 11 left to go, 11 games left to burn. So injuries, we're moving that aside of it. Right now, the way Victor has taken this team to the next level, there's such an element and aspect of it when I put stock into this, the credibility into someone's argument like that. It's how much better they elevate everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what Shea has done. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what Victor has done.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to who gets that number 1 spot. Because the Spurs, with the exception of De'Aaron Fox, at the start of the year, and Stephon Castle, what did we really know about them from a collective standpoint? The real sense of confidence that they were going to do this, right? We didn't think they were going to do this. And then on the side of things, like with the SGA side, we knew J-Dub, major deal. Chet, major deal, but they have not been healthy. If this was a conversation where J-Dub has played the whole season, I am saying SGA is not the MVP. This is Victor. But the fact that Shea has done this, kept his team afloat, the best record, teeter-totter back and forth with Detroit throughout the season, that's what defines it for me on that front for him and what defines it for Victor. Bias aside, I'm always going to lean the San Antonio way.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, though, at the end of the day, I'm having a hard time leaning anywhere other than the San Antonio way, and I'm excited what's to come in these final 6 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Shea, to speak of some of the things that, you're talking about, he was out of lineup for a little bit. Team held him up, but everybody knows, especially media-wise, that they go as Shea goes. And ever since he's been back, he's playing at a high level. And I don't want to, set this up for tomorrow, but I'm going to set it up for tomorrow. There's a guy coming to town that's going to have a lot to say about, all this Victor Wembanyama stuff. So what I want to see tomorrow is Victor just go out there and put it on the Joker. Now the Joker's playing really well right now. Denver, almost got that game the other night, OKC. He's been playing angry. And it's probably because a lot of conversations are going on like this about the MVP stuff. So, if I had to lean Victor or Shea, I'll go Wemby because they are putting some pressure on OKC. The OKC is just not running around or running away from everybody. But I want to see this matchup tomorrow, Casey, and then I'll have a better answer for you in a couple of shows.
Yeah, I'm hoping it stays as advertised on the marquee because the Spurs did say earlier today at the start of the day that Wemby is going to be questionable with ankle soreness. We'll see. As we know, this is a guy who gets up for the competition regardless, and I have a hard time believing that he's going to be sitting in that game. But you never know. Thinking the bigger picture with this type of stuff. I actually think in recent weeks, for 2 reasons. One, Victor has been great, but Denver has struggled a little bit. And it was the other day against the Knicks where the Knicks beat them by 40, and I think Joker had 40. And on that sense, when I'm watching them, I'm like, he might be the greatest offensive player. I personally think Joker is the greatest offensive player in the history of the sport, most talented, gifted player in the history of the sport, all given the circumstances of what he is. But defensively, especially when you compare it to Victor on the other side, I'm like, how do you rationally prioritize Joker as the most valuable player of the league this year over what Wemby's doing, over what Shea's doing when he's not playing one end of the floor. Certainly to the extent of to the degree Victor is, but who is, but just at a level where he's putting up 40 and they're still losing 40 by 40. And I know Jamal Murray was hurt in that Knicks game, and that's something
And
to be mindful of
they
as
could
well.
not hit they could not hit a shot, Casey. They
No,
could not hit a shot.
no,
Nothing. But the
no.
other night, OKC, Jamal was back out there and they were hitting their shots. They were getting Tim Hardaway Jr. went crazy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But that's the thing with Denver. You just don't know. And being that they take a lot of threes, you live and die by. That's what everybody said. So
Of course. Before we started, you brought up a good point that you were talking about the idea that Wemby's MVP candidacy, it goes beyond Victor, and it's the fact that everybody else around him, in terms of the coaching staff, the people above him, they seem not to suggest that a team with an MVP candidate would not be this way, but there really is a vested interest in him to go out and help him get this award. Elaborate a little bit more on that, because I want to get into it, but I don't want to misspeak, and I think you do a better job giving it justice.
Well, when you see the way your superstar carries themselves, you kind of have to follow suit, right? For me, it was Tim. Tim would come to work every day, practice every day. He was not on time. He was there early, stayed late, things like that. When you have your superstar doing that, how can you be the last one into practice? How can you not be there an hour before practice, getting your shots up and doing things like that? So when you see someone like Wemby, and I'll tell you what, to his credit, and everybody knows he does this, but LeBron James would be there an hour and a half before practice. If we had 10 o'clock practice, there were a lot of times he was there, 8:15, working on his shot, because that was one of the knocks when he got in there. So to see him, making all these threes the way he does, that's a credit to the work he put in. But with Wemby, it's the same thing. If I walk into practice and it's 9:15 and Wemby's already in sweat on the court, I'd be a little nervous if I was everybody else around him. So what that's going to do is that's going to let everybody know that, okay, if he's not messing around, then I can't be out here messing around. If he gets in here at 9, let me get in here at 8:30, 8:45. So I think that that just goes on with the team and then the coaches. Obviously, if the coaches have a game plan and Wemby goes, hey, you know what, let's do this, they're going to listen, because at the end of the day, Victor's the last line of defense. So Victor's done a great job just being a true professional. And what is this, year 3, year 4?
3.
3.
Feels like 14 already,
Yeah,
right?
but my point
forever.
is to be such a young guy and just take San Antonio's organization and put it on your shoulders. That, like I said, that goes back to the conversations he's having with, I'll just say, 21 and number 50. Everybody knows who they are.
Yeah, you know what? Now that I think about it, you played, because I mean, I know you've played with a who's who, but you've played with 3 MVPs. Well, technically 4, but three MVPs in the modern day, so to speak, and that won during your time out there. But correct me if I'm wrong. You were here one of the years Tim won early in your career, right?
Right.
And then when you were with LeBron, that was not an MVP season, and when you were with Derrick Rose, that was the year before the MVP.
That was the year before, year before.
That was the year before the MVP season. All right, so talk about I guess we'll talk about the Duncan aspect of it, that MVP season that you were a part of. What's it like inside of that locker room, collectively, everybody else trying to help that guy? In that case, you guys helped Tim get that last push over the top, because if I'm thinking 02, 03, he's probably on a short list going up against like Shaq, I would think, right? Early years, Steve Nash, if I'm not
Mm-hmm.
mistaken, Phoenix, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's probably who he's going up against. What are those conversations like with everybody else?
Well, that's a weird example because Tim is very quiet. He
Yeah.
just shows up to work, does his job, does it very well. There's, a ton of games when you think that he's having a quiet game, and then all of a sudden you look up, he's got 20 and 15, 20 and 20, 30 and 20, whatever the numbers are. So you just don't want to get in their way. All right. If he's asking for it on the block or wherever, you give it to him. If he wants you to guard your defense, he tells you your defense sucks, guard your man better. So you don't want to get in the way in those senses. And then, at the same time, he had Pop over there screaming at you. So, you got a job to do. Just get your job done. Now, with Derrick Rose, you could see the breakout coming the year that I was there. You could see it coming. And then for him to be able and his body to hold up with the way, he played. That is just he was an outstanding player too. The athleticism and playing the point. The only one you saw at that time doing that was a young Russell Westbrook.
Hmm.
So
Pretty much, yeah.
for me, those guys, it was just the way they approached the game. There were no days off. Even on days off, they were in there getting their work in. And when you play with guys like that, it makes you work hard
Hmm.
as well.
Hmm. Pretty cool stuff, man. These are the moments where we have these conversations, and I just kind of sit and listen to you talk
Yeah.
about these kinds of things.
And don't we left some people out now,
Oh
I
no,
played
yeah,
with
but
Chris
I'm talking.
Paul and
Yeah, no,
yeah,
but right. I was saying right in the sense of I was just spitballing there. I was trying to think MVPs because I know Chris Paul never won an MVP, right? Yeah, no, Chris
right.
Paul's never won an MVP. Right. I was talking MVPs of the modern day, and I was trying to think because I knew it was Tim early on the front, but yeah, I knew it wasn't LeBron, and then I remember you told me once that it was the year after.
Mm-hmm.
That's when Derrick Rose, which makes all the sense in the world because I know the trickle down effect that you have as a culture guy on building the youth of the league. So I know there is no
Oh
MVP
yeah,
Derrick Rose without Devin Brown. So
absolutely. And not just me and that popcorn as well. But we
that
won't get into
true, yes, true.
that.
Hey, we're going to talk about the Spurs point guard while on the topic of such. He is a guy that Devin Brown and I have had quite a roller coaster year of conversations on, but it is undeniable to speak anything other than positive than De'Aaron Fox right now. What has been going right for him? What has made things so special as of late? Going to hit on that coming up on the other side of the break on the Spurs Squad Show right here on Locked On Spurs. But before we do that, we step aside, have another conversation about some of our friends who help in putting this program on the air. And in this case, some of our friends who are going to help you in trying to find the right person to fill that job vacancy that you've had for weeks, months. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach people who actually fit what you're looking for, sometimes down to the most basic of stuff. Skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And check this number out. In the minute or so that we've been talking, companies like your own have made 27 hires on Indeed, that according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching, more time interviewing candidates, and especially the ones who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Listeners of this show are going to get a $75 sponsored job credit to help you get your listing up to premium status. How do you do it? You head on over to Indeed.com/podcast, Indeed.com/podcast right now, and support our show by saying, yeah, that's where we got the message from. Terms and conditions, as always, do apply. Yeah, I tell you what, something that you need if it wasn't for Indeed is a lot of boosts, a lot of energy. Or in this case, a couple 5-hour energies to get you going. Right now, they're really talking about the expansive flavor palettes that they got over there. They got a little bit of everything for you, from the confetti craze to the fruity rainbow, the cotton candies of the world, they like to call it. I like the confetti craze, kind of a birthday cake type deal. I'm also boring too. They got the cherries, the pomegranates, board and set. Flavors are ready. You know where you're going. 5-hour energy. Find your new favorite flavor at 5hourenergy.com or, of course, at Amazon. Also, want to remind you guys about the Everydayer Club and all the good things we got going on every day, if you will. Especially now that we're in March with March Madness here. If you've been thinking about joining the club, here's another reason, here's another time to do it. Aside from the ad-free shows and access to the group chats on the Discord, and this is not Locked On Spurs totally, this is all the Locked On programs. If you're signed up before the tournament tips off, the NCAA tournament, you can get into our Everydayer bracket pool on Discord for a chance to win Locked On merch. Going to be a lot of fun. Right now, use the code MARCH, MARCH, to get your first month free. Head on over to lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer for more. Right here on a Spurs Squad Show on Wednesday night as we head into a 2-game homestand, the final 2 games, the last of a 6-game homestand for your San Antonio Spurs, which of course finds them in the midst of a stretch where they've won 16 of their last 17 games. You knew that by now. I'm not telling you guys anything you don't already know. Something that you maybe didn't know is to the degree of how well De'Aaron Fox has played. Yeah, you've seen it from the eye test, but the numbers would suggest even more on top of that. Listen to this data I'm about to throw your way, Devin. Over the last 4 games, over 23 points, a shade under 8 assists, a shade under 60% from the field. You're a plus-minus guy, an average of plus 11.5. to the exact science, if you will. Let us not forget an 11-14 showing from the field last night against the Boston Celtics in that victory as well. De'Aaron Fox playing the best basketball as a San Antonio Spur at the best time of season. What has been the difference? What have you seen from our guy over the past few weeks now, that has really instilled the confidence in us? Because if you guys are regular viewers on the show, you know, we go up and down with this guy. But like I said before the break, Devin, it's been hard to be anything other than just tremendously complimentary of the stuff that he's got going on right now.
Yeah, absolutely. When you talk about the stretch that he's been on, that last, rough game being against the Knicks, if you go from there, what has turned up, and this is a conversation with Mitch that you have to have, is his field goal attempts. He's gotten way more aggressive. All right. So now what you're starting to see is a different Fox. He's not getting in the way of Harper. He's not getting in the way of Castle. He's not trying to outdo any of these guys. What he is doing, he's getting everybody involved. 28 assists the last 3 games. Think about that. That's a huge number right there.
That's major.
That's major right there.
That's major.
So he's getting everybody involved. But let me tell you something. 4th quarter the other night, Celtics were on the ropes. De'Aaron is isolating, and he can go get you a basket anytime. Got you a layup. Playing on the other defensive end, he's getting one of those reach-around steals, almost 1 per game. So what he's doing is he's figured it out, Casey. He's seeing where he can attack. He's seeing where he can be effective. And down the stretch, when they run that 2-man game with him and Wemby, good luck to you. Because right now, he's playing at such a rate that he's having confidence in taking his shots. And then you got Wemby that's cooking as well. So the major difference, Casey, is his shot attempts to me. Last 4 games, 14, 15, 18, 22. That's what you need him to do.
Yeah, I thought you said that perfectly. I'm digging back. I'm trying to see how many times this year he cracked the 20-shot mark prior to the victory the other day when he had 30. Or
if I had to guess, I'd say one other time.
Let me see. It's going to take a second. I'll walk and chew my gum too at the same time, and I'll figure it out by the end of our block here. I don't think there's been a player that has benefited as much from Victor's real ascension over the past 6 weeks on the offensive side of the floor than De'Aaron Fox. Whether that's because Fox has elevated his game or whether it's because vice versa, the other way around, we just always assume the better for the victor. So, very well could be the other side of things that they have that figured out too. Either way, we're seeing something that we haven't seen with the two of them, is the fact that this is the best camaraderie that they've had between the two of them in the year plus that they've played together. Because there hasn't been a consistent time where we've seen and we've looked at him with the two-man game. Very often we're looking at him with the two-man game and we're saying, why don't they go to it? For a majority of the season, we're saying, well, why aren't they going to it? And now we're saying, oh, just keep going to it. Just keep going back to that well because it's working and it's been just massive stuff. And I think as a result, maybe it's a comfortability thing. Maybe it's a schematical thing. Maybe it's a confidence thing, right? We come on here all the time and we talk about Stefan Castle not being afraid of Fox, so to speak, and
Right.
Fox's, presence as a former All-Star. Maybe it's a side of things that De'Aaron Fox, the All-Star nod to get back, maybe it was a confidence thing then. He's like, oh
Well,
yeah, I remember who I am.
let
I'm
me
an
say
All-Star.
this. I'm
Yeah,
going to help you out so you can
help me out.
find those numbers because, I
Yeah,
don't like being wrong on here. And I remember that number I said once.
once.
So anyway, here's what I got for you. So what or what I know, about being in that locker room and being there is that, Casey, the biggest thing is I don't think they had a full De'Aaron package playbook in yet. Think
Really?
about that. Think about that. The first 25, 30 games, you kind of go off feel. You had Castle and some of the other guys playing well, De'Aaron coming along. But what you're starting to see Coach Mitch do now is he's starting to get featured in that fourth quarter. So what that tells me is I go, thought about it during the game the other day. I go, you know what? They're starting to put plays in him. He'll start over on one wing, slice through, get Wemby, dribble. Wemby will hit him on a dribble handoff. Now you got De'Aaron Fox coming downhill, and you got Wemby rolling. So it got my mind thinking, and that's the answer I have for you is I just don't think they had all the plays in yet. Now, they're going to have more because it'll be some schemes and different things, different looks that you'll see come playoff time.
Mm-hmm. The answer to that question that we had is it is 5. He had 5 20-shot games, believe it or not, up to prior to the other day against the Celtics, or what did we say? Not the Celtics, the Pistons. That's what it was. He's had 6 on the season, but then we kind of remember, which feels like a lifetime ago. They did play a pretty sustained stretch without Victor. So
6 out
of how many games are we up to now? 65.
I think what are they? 47 and 17.
48 and 17.
48 and 17.
So he's played up to, because he missed the 9 at the start of the year. So 6 out of his 50 games played.
6 out of 50 games played.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. 6 out of 50 games played. You talk about the design packages for Fox in that spot.
Mm-hmm.
Why so late before this is really, why so late? We're in March. It's March 11th. Like if it was a matter of an unestablished guy getting these consistent packages in crunch time like that,
mm-hmm.
I would understand that. Like if this was a matter of if this was getting Dylan Harper some, packages in crunch time like this, okay, I'd understand that. But this is Fox.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we having this conversation on March 11th now?
Well, because you can't show your hand. I mean, these NBA teams are so good at scouting and they're so detailed in the things that they're looking for, that by the time you get to playoff time, you can actually have a defender tell the offensive player, hey, my man, you're not actually supposed to be here. You're supposed to be right here. And that screen's going to come down, and then that's
they say LeBron used to do that all the time.
Yeah, he was one of them. A lot of people used to do that. Yes, LeBron used to do that. Vince Carter was really big about that. And so it's just because that's just how. And now, like, we had VHS tapes. And when I see players carrying iPads now, I mean, there is no excuse in the world not to be able to guard your guy that you're guarding, and not to recognize when a play is being called to know what's going on. But that's what you have to do. You have to change the names of plays. You have to put people on opposite sides. You have to start people instead of starting them up top, start them in the corner. You have to do all these things because the NBA is very detailed in how they scout.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. I think I just have a hard time wondering for a veteran presence, and I guess it goes to show you that it's the NBA and it's just fluid. It's a marathon, right?
Mhm.
I wonder for one of the more seasoned guys on this team how it takes this long to find that. And yeah, I know you just answered that. I'm saying this in a rhetorical sense. I
Mhm.
know you just answered it. So to hear you say that it's explain it in that fashion is interesting because now I'm wondering like what's next.
Mhm.
When teams adapt to this, which of course conveniently will be coming in all likelihood, or at least have a real idea of what the Spurs are out and doing in a month from now, right for the first round of the playoffs.
Mhm.
What's the Spurs counterpunch to that?
Yeah. So the
Yeah,
other night I made a comment about Victor. I
right.
said it's good to see him moving around. In the last 4 games, how many times remember we got used to seeing Victor around that free throw line?
Yeah,
How many times did the ball get stolen from behind him? Because he couldn't see that
we
defender
couldn't
that's
see.
beside.
Right,
It's happened a few times, right?
right,
That's scouting. They
right.
know when Victor is anywhere near that elbow, he holds it out and he's looking left. He's not looking, he
Gonna
can't look
come from
behind
behind.
him.
Yeah, yeah.
So boom, it gets stolen from him. So now you're starting to see the Spurs adjust to that. So
Hmm.
Victor could end up on any spot anywhere. And
Hmm.
that's what you have to do with him. Not only him, but that's what you have to do to design your offense, Casey.
Hmm. It's working. It's working. And I think what's I guess encouraging on that sense too is that if you're gonna like this is the time to give the two of them the heavy volume, right? Like because this is the way it's going to be for a good chunk of the postseason
Mhm.
with these two guys in 4 out of the 6, 5 out of the 6 games, they're probably going to dominate the shot selection, and the two of them are going to be 16. Well, Victor will be 20, but Fox will be 16, 17 plus. Oh, well, if not
And
every
it,
night, like 5 out of 7, right?
and he should.
And he should, right?
He should.
And that's the point that I'm getting at is like the
Mhm.
fact that they're figuring this out now is, we look at it, when we see winning stretches like this, we're prisoners of the moment. We're like, yeah, they're gonna win the whole thing. But
Mhm.
and that this is not just a Spurs thing, just in general. Like, yeah, they're good, they're winning. We expect where we're excited, right? That's what fans do. But we sometimes forget aspects of the importance of how that they're winning and the carryover why this could succeed. Like this is a huge thing that they figured out. If we were looking at this team
Mhm.
and we were still getting this Fox, you know, whatever it was, 11 to 14 the other night, and 2 days later, it will be a 2 of 14 deal, and they lose the game. And this type of thing was happening. I think we're feeling a little bit more sour about it. But it's the fact that, like, okay, even if they go and lose to Denver tomorrow, but you see something similar out of this between Wemby and Fox,
Mhm.
I mean, you're feeling good, right?
Yeah,
You're
absolutely.
feeling you're feeling real good. That's the point that I'm getting at. It's like when you put the actual win-loss aside and you look at the dynamic as to why they're excelling, like that's what makes you really believe about their chances to do stuff.
Can I say this?
You can.
So Boston, and I'm trying to remember their starting lineup, right? So they had the big. He had he was in charge of Wemby, and then you had Tatum and Brown,
Tatum, Brown,
who
Derek
had their
White,
respective matchups.
and
And this goes
they
to your
started
point.
Hauser yesterday. Hauser in place of yeah, they started it was White, Brown, Tatum, Hauser, Kata. That's who it was.
Yeah, yeah, that's the one
Yeah.
name I was looking for.
Yeah.
So think about if you're De'Aaron Fox. Did you see who was guarding him? Hauser.
Hauser.
So, okay, you had a stretch where you're playing well, and then Boston does that to you? Of course you're gonna go, okay. You see what I'm saying?
And
So
that's literally what he did.
oh my God. All the
Yeah,
stuff that you've done in the NBA and you get a primetime matchup and you got Hauser on you, it's time to go to work. So my point in saying this is it has to do with all of the Spurs. Juju can really shoot it, so you got to pay attention to him. Vassell, he's been hot shooting it. Got to pay attention to him. Now you're dealing with Wemby, Castle, Fox. So Fox has been just going along here going, yep, get yours, get yours, get yours. But we talked about it. We'll talk about it again. The last 4 games, he's going, I got to get some respect. I'm a heck of a player. Let me get some respect back now. You see what I'm saying? So that's what's led to this. And Casey, we've been enjoying every minute of it.
for sure. For as great as that's been, though, we know that a completely different animal awaits in 6 weeks with the postseason. And the Spurs, for as good as they're playing, they're very much an imperfect product, because what team is a perfect product? We know that. So we're going to try to navigate where we're still a little shy about some things, where we're still hesitant about some things. You've heard the really good stuff, why we're excited. There's a lot of it, but there is some stuff that kind of has us feeling a little reserved at some points. We will hit on that coming up on the other side of the break right here on the Spurs Squad Show on Locked On Spurs. But before we get to the fun stuff, the bad stuff, if you will, we talk about the good stuff and more of our friends who help in getting this program on the air, including the ones who are going to help you get to the game, get to that Nuggets game on Thursday, get to the Hornets game to wrap up the homestand. How are you going to do it? Where are you going to check out our friends over there with GameTime, because there's nothing like being in the Frost Bank Center, right? With the crowd, the energy, Victor, when they're going, you got the Jackals up there losing their mind this season. They got the chants, all the fun, the bells and whistles. You know how special this year's been. But sometimes getting the tickets to do all that fun stuff, it is not easy. It's a headache. But that's where the GameTime app has just been major. I've used it a few times, not only for the Spurs games, but actually out of market games. And it's been great because it puts the guesswork. It gets rid of the guesswork. It takes that stuff out of your hands and it puts the advantage back in your hands. They got everything from letting you know when that seat you're keeping an eye on. They can send you an alert that, yeah, this is reasonably priced. This is in your ballpark. The upfront fees, or all the fees are upfront. That's a big thing for me. You can see where you're sitting in real time as well. On top of that, it's really good. That's where you want to go to get to the games this weekend. You download the GameTime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase, LOCKEDON for $20 off, as opposed to Locked On NBA. Download the GameTime app today, and remember, it's GameTime.co, not GameTime.com. Spurs haven't lost in 3 weeks, 2 weeks. How long has it been since that Knicks game? A couple weeks now. They haven't lost more than 3 games all season. They have only lost once in their last 17 tries. But still, we're not completely confident in what we're seeing, because there's a whole lot of things they need to tidy up if the championship aspirations are valid, if the aspirations to become an all-time squad are valid. I'm not saying anything we don't particularly know, because that's the NBA. Every single team is flawed. And there are a lot of skeptics around this Spurs squad that still do exist. I know from the broader lens, everybody is on the bandwagon now, and understandably so. But right now, where are you most hesitant, cautionary about this squad going into the last 6 weeks, going into the playoffs?
The outside shooting. Okay, that's going to have to hold up. When it slows down, it becomes a possession game. You're playing, teams that do a good job rebounding on their end. That shot, that one shot that you get, swing, whoever it is, doesn't matter whoever. Are they going to be able to knock it down? Does not matter who it is. Just are they going to be able to knock it down? And I'm talking games when you're on the road in a playoff game. It's a 1-1 series, or whatever the case may be. You have that one. You're down 12. You needed to cut it to 9, or you need it from 9 to 6. 6 to 3, whatever it could be. That outside shooting, that's my point. Number 2, the defense. Rotations. Are we going to know what we're doing when we're switching? Are we getting back? Are we getting a stunt from the weak side? Are we covered when Wemby gets out of that lane? Are we boxing out as guards, that guy underneath, getting down there, getting physical? When we play teams like Minnesota and they stretch us out 5, do we know what we're doing? Do we know how we're reacting? All right. If we double Ant to get the ball out of his hands, do we have our rotations in the back? Joker and Jamal Murray, when they run that 2-man game, I know we're good on the ball and off the ball, but what about the weak side and behind us? Third one, last one, Wemby's health. Wemby's done a phenomenal job so far. Hopefully he stays healthy. It's no coincidence that we have Mason Plumlee, Kelly Olynyk, and Lute. Okay? They're serviceable big men, and the Spurs are very cautious because they've had to deal with this in the past about Wemby. That's why you have 3 big guys. All right? Waiting their turn. But if Wemby can stay healthy, Casey, fix up the outside shooting, secure that defense, that's what I got for you.
I saw a stat today that was this is from our my buddy over there, Tom Petrini, over there at the Silver and Black Coffee Hour. One of the best independent Spurs content creators that you can get. So go check his stuff out. Fantastic work. He posted a stat. I believe when they shoot over 35% from 3, they're like 35-3 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So something absurd, but more so a commentary. Again, this is going to be one of those things while I whistle, while I work here, and I'll get to it. But yeah, I think the shooting, you'd be kind of silly to not worry about that, right? Because we've seen. All right, I got the number now. This from our buddy over there, Tom Petrini, 39.4%. They are 20, which is a very specific number, very on brand. San Antonio is 23-0 when they pass that. They're 33-5 when they hit 35% or better. So yes, shout out Tommy for putting that math together. But that's kind of the data speaks to the eye test in this case, right? In that we know that when they're hitting consistently, they're almost unbeatable. And I don't say that from like a biased San Antonio lens. I say that from just the pure, just kind of like watching them, just watch the eye test of basic basketball. When they're, and the numbers would suggest that at 33-5, and then over 39%, that means when they hit 40% of their threes, when they hit it at a good, consistent rate, like that means that they're elite. And we know that. So that I agree is a concern, because we've also seen quite the contrary, because we've seen 15 straight games or whatever it was, or 12 of 15 where they didn't even hit a third of their threes. But for me, and maybe stop me if I'm wrong here, but is it fair to me to still have some concerns about lights being too bright in some of these playoff games?
No, that just goes with the roster. In fairness to, in fairness to the youth, on the roster.
I kind of feel that way right now. Like I'm not totally sold yet.
I mean, I know where you're going with that, but the thing about it is guys like Castle, guys like Harper, even when I'm thinking the New York game, the at Detroit game. Yeah. And if you look up beyond a couple of their mistakes, which they're allowed to have, they played well.
So you think it's I think we're on the same wavelength with that, because they've had their moments, and this is probably why I should feel more encouraged about it, because they've had their moments like the Cup game where they imploded like that in that fourth quarter, where the lights looked too bright, they fell apart. But I would love to see, and maybe this is another thing I should have done math on today, what their numbers been in the national TV games, because it feels like they've maybe only lost a couple times every time they've been, on national TV. I'm having a hard time thinking about the last one that they dropped on national TV. Well, actually, the last one that they did drop on national TV was their last loss, because that was the Knick game, and that's really the only team that they haven't played great against all season.
Right.
I think, yeah, probably for me, I'm still worried about the moment of that, the spotlight of that, the intensity that comes with playing the same team potentially 7 times in a row.
Hmm.
And the element that they haven't seen it, I think because they've shown a good amount. There's reason to feel confident because they've shown a good amount of resiliency throughout the entire season. When they do have these real duds, these real clunker of a games where we go out there and we knock these guys for just not looking like they belong, and they've been few
Right.
and far between. They've had some really solid, impressive bounce back victories along the way, and I wonder how well that's going to translate. And then the data would, when I say that out loud, would suggest that, yeah, there is reason to believe that this will translate. They will bounce back in these spots. It will get better. The only thing that's unfortunate, you only have so much time to get better in a 7-game series, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You only have 4 chances to get it wrong. 3 chances to get it wrong, I should say. But
Exactly.
for me right now, I think that's where my hesitation lies. I think right now the hesitation is I'm still a little worried about those lights shining bright.
Yeah, and it's, in all fairness, you're right. But a guy like Harper, remember, he's got his dad isn't hit in his ear, which really helps. But you also have De'Aaron Fox that you can lean on, veteran guy. And when it comes to a guy like Carter Bryant, I don't know. But to me, it just seems like if you take the gloves off of him, that he can handle it. But we'll see come playoff time.
Mhm.
But you're definitely going to need. Those are just a couple of them. Wemby will be ready. I mean, he's played big games with France. I'm not too much worried about him. Castle, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not too concerned about him. But yeah, Harper and Bryant they seem to get it, and
Mhm.
they seems like they're getting it early. So I wouldn't be too concerned about them. Um,
I think, yeah, I think this only speaks that much more to the importance of getting that top seed, right? You want to, if you're a young team like that, you want to give yourself every single advantage that you can in this situation when you're not familiar with it. Like, you trust Oklahoma City to go out and win a championship if they're the 2 seed,
mhm.
because Oklahoma City is going to go into whatever building, they don't
Whatever,
care.
but you're right.
They don't care. I mean, to Denver as well. I know Denver people
Yeah.
are starting to sour on Denver, but they feel the same way. If the Spurs right now, because we haven't seen it, we don't know. Like, we don't know. So if you want to see them have every single advantage like that, and it just speaks that much more to the
Mhm.
magnitude of if they can get that top spot to host that. Do we know if it'll be enough? No, it might
No.
not be. It might not be enough. It might not impact Oklahoma City the way it would impact the Spurs, like if the Spurs play in a game 7 in their gym, I infinitely trust that a whole lot more than a game 7 in Oklahoma City. But like, you look at it from the OKC lens, they're not particularly going to be shook about that atmosphere in all likelihood.
Right.
I
Right.
mean, they'd much rather be playing up in OKC in their gym, but they've been about it. They've been around it before. Um, I think that's kind of where I'm at. It just, that's the aspect, I think, that if they can do that, if they can get to that top spot, you really eliminate, no, you do, correction, you don't eliminate concern, because the concern will always be there with a young team. But that makes you feel a whole lot better, in my opinion, about that concern.
Yeah, it does. It does. So you bring up OKC and made me think back to the game the Spurs were playing in there. Remember, Alex Caruso was having a tough time. He
Mhm,
was like 0 of 7, 0 for 8,
mhm.
couldn't hit anything. On one of his threes, hit the side of the backboard. Well, that
Oh, that's
game,
right.
if
Yeah.
if I yeah, if I was the Spurs coaching staff after that game, whatever that was, I go to them. You can't do it now. You have to do it and whenever that date was, because it was earlier this season. You go, that was a game 7. You saw a player on OKC who is normally very good, putting all that pressure on him because their adjustment, the Spurs adjustment from game 2 to 3 or whatever it was to let Caruso shoot that. And it got in his head. But my point is that's what's going to have to happen. If you have a player like that from OKC that just can't find it in a game 7, the Spurs will be okay. Now, flip it to when they played later and OKC, they just couldn't miss. They could everybody, Jalen Williams, everybody was hitting.
Everybody, yeah.
That's the game 7 you don't want if you're the Spurs.
Right. Do you buy into, and as always, I don't say this in the condescending of sense, as a role player, a guy who was a role player, do you subscribe to the idea of role players play that much better in the playoffs in their gym?
No. I only say that because when you're in your hotel room and you're by yourself and you're in a LA or Seattle or wherever, and you're going, all right, you're looking at your paperwork. I got Ray Allen. I got Kobe Bryant. All right. I'm going to have to try and figure out what it is that they're going to do. I got to know all their moves, things like that. So you don't have time to be doing all the other stuff.
Right.
When you're at home, you're getting texts and calls. Hey, man, the tickets. Hey, Devin, I just need 8.
So you were the other way.
I was the other way.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was the other way.
Honestly, were you that way when you played for Cleveland and New Orleans, though? Because I feel like that's probably easier to be that way being in your hometown.
Right.
But when you played for Cleveland, when you played for New Orleans, when you were in playoff games, you guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were not a playoff team in Utah.
No. And no, New Orleans either. They went one year, but I was with Cleveland
at that point.
The year they went. And then went back to New Orleans.
Got it. Okay.
So when I was with Cleveland, that was when we were battling Washington. That 4-5 first round.
Right.
It was making sure that when you got because remember now the offense ran different. LeBron was being doubled and triple teamed. So if you got an open 3, just make sure you knock it down. There wasn't a whole lot of other stuff you had to do. Just knock your 3 down. That's it.
Just stand in that spot, and if you pass it,
stand in that spot and be ready for it because it's coming over there. Yeah. So all you gotta do, really with that was completely different. But no, it was, and there was so much. I mean, we remember now, with Cleveland, we're in on ESPN every single day, every time they turn ESPN on. So that's different. You gotta be ready to go. Every game, didn't matter home, away, or whatever.
Interesting. Again, I said it earlier with the Derrick Rose stuff. These are the moments where I just kind of sit back and listen. Good stuff. You've been providing it tonight, my friend. Good stuff. All right. Well, maybe ask him to hit the deep subject matter one more time there, because a few more minutes on the other side of the break. We'll talk about with the last 2 games of the homestand, what we're hoping to see as the 6-game homestand comes to a close at the Frostbank Center this week. Got that coming up for you right here on the Spurs Squad Show on Locked On Spurs. But before we do that, you know what I'm about to say by now. We step aside to have a conversation about our friends who help in putting this program on the air, and in this case, the ones who are going to help you not miss those important calls as a business owner. Because as we know, spring is really just kind of a natural reset point, right? And if there's one thing that can quietly cost businesses, cost you a whole lot of money, it's messy communications, missed calls, scattered texts, no clear thread of who said what. That's why this episode tonight brought to you by Quo, spelled Quo, the smarter way to run your business communication. It's the #1 business rated phone system on G2. 3,000 reviews can vouch for it. 90,000 businesses can vouch for it. It lets your entire team share one business number, so you never miss a call, a text, an opportunity, nothing. So make this season no opportunity. The season with no opportunity, and no customer, not a single one's going to slip away from you. Try Quo for free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedonnba, quo.com/lockedonnba with Quo. And no missed calls, no missed customers. It felt like the Spurs were on the road for a month, which they were. And they came back home and they played a quick 6 games, which will be the case by the end of the weekend. Then they're going back on the road again. The final 2 of a 6-game homestand starting tomorrow, Thursday, Denver, before putting a bow on things with Charlotte in town. Remember, a Charlotte Hornets team that beat the Spurs just a few months back at the tail end of January. And that's really when we were all kind of wondering, what's wrong with these guys? And they shut us all up. Some people thought that. I said that. I'm guilty of it. All right. What are you keeping an eye out for over these last 2 games of the homestand?
Well, there's going to be an angry Joker coming to town. So Victor, rest up that ankle, get that ready, because the Joker's going to be coming after you. And then with Charlotte, they're playing well, and it's the whole 2 and 3 pick thing that's going to be thrown around in the air. So if you're Mr. Harper, you're like, hey, Vassell, Keldon, and the other wing players, hey, need y'all play some great defense tonight so I don't have to keep hearing about this guy. You definitely don't want that young man coming in here hitting about 6 or 7 threes. Charlotte gets another win, and that'll disrupt the San Antonio fan base on why we didn't get him. But I just want to see 2-0 finish the homestand because I know, looking at the schedule, they're going to be playing every other day here for a little bit, and it's going to be a tough stretch. So take advantage of these 2, finish 6-0, and Casey will look forward to everything after that.
Ripe spot for the Spurs to get the better of the Nuggets tomorrow for the second time in as many tries. Denver, at this current conversation, is up by 38 points on the Houston Rockets in Denver. So that's you want to talk. I gotta hit up my guy Jackson Gatlin over there, Locked on Rockets, because he's been a couple weeks ago after that win that Houston had. He was in the chat, so now I might be due to get back over there. But Denver will be here off the tail end of a back-to-back tomorrow night. And what I'm hoping to see, I'm hoping to see, Victor play, because why would you not want to see Wemby play? But Denver fully healthy is one of the few teams, as you know, that I'm really worried about in a 7-game series with the Spurs' chances. Them, Minnesota, the Knicks, that's it. I've said it many times before. And if Victor doesn't play, I'm not going to be able to get that read of that, And that didn't happen the first time because Victor didn't play the first time. Joker played, and there were some other injuries that Denver had, but it was a one injury ravaged team beat another injury ravaged team. It was a nice win for the Spurs. They came back in a cup game from 17 down or whatever it was to come back and win. Carter Bryant had some good minutes in that, if I'm not mistaken. But I need Victor to play on that front, because I need to validate some of my opinions, maybe not validate in this context, but I got to get a better idea of what I'm talking about. And I gotta see some stuff out there, and I need him matched up against Joker. And then on the other side, with that Hornets game, I am very interested in watching the Hornets, in a sense that I'm starting to wonder, like, this team, the Hornets, they've played prior to their road swing, their West Coast road trip, which will be the last. The Spurs will be the last of a 4-game road trip. They had won 16 of 19, and then they dropped a couple, beat Portland, and now going to be heading back into San Antonio. As of this recording, they're sitting in the 10th spot pretty comfortably over Milwaukee, 5 up on them, and 4 back of the 6 Miami. I'm really interested to see what they look like, to see if they have a chance to really pull off something slick in the playoffs.
Yep.
They get the right matchup, because it would be the 8 seed. They're 2.5 back of Philly right now to get in that first 7-8 game with which I guess is feasible. I don't know how many more times that they play them the rest of the way, but I know Philly's got all sorts of injuries with Maxey out now too.
Max, yeah.
Yeah, point being, I'm really interested to watch that Charlotte team on that front because I know they're playing great, as good as anybody with the exception of the Spurs and maybe the Celtics the other day. They're playing as good as anyone. I'm looking forward to seeing on that front, like how legitimate it is. How legitimate it is. All right. Unless you got something to say of note, it's time for us to get out of here.
I'm good, Casey. I'm good.
I was going to say I felt at unease leaving the show without you getting a final word. I felt like I did a lot of talking tonight. I don't know. Maybe I had
you're
a lot
good.
to say. Hey, shout out to you guys as always. You're the ones who make all this fun, make all this possible. I know we got a little bit of a later start tonight, and we still had a great engagement. Chat was very fun tonight, so I appreciate you guys doing what you do. Of course, you're going to be right back here tomorrow night after Spurs Nuggets, 8 o'clock tip time over at the Frostbank Center. We'll be back on the Spurs postcast right here on Locked On Spurs to break it all down for you once the night comes to a close. A good place to leave it as we near the top of the midnight hour right here on the Spurs Squad Show on Locked On Spurs. So we will step aside and do exactly that. So for my good buddy, Mr. NBA champion Devin Brown, I'm Casey Viera. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we will talk to you guys tomorrow.